agenda tonight, Tuesday, April 18th, 2023. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Inkakapla and the Silk people. Adoption of minutes, 2.1, Committee of the Whole minutes, April 6th, 2023. Recommendation that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held on April 6th, 2023 be adopted. Councillor Charney?
No.
Wait, we're not there yet.
It's signed by Linda Brown.
But wait, we're not there yet.
Sorry.
I'll see Councillor Charney, Councillor Chart. Any errors or omissions? Yes, go ahead.
It is signed by Linda Brown.
That might be, if I correct, is that a past thing we were referencing?
That is a template for your worship, but the corporate officer and the mayoral thing for some reason have not properly updated, which we will fix.
Another strike in the book. Thank you, Councillor Charney. Gotcha. Any other errors or omissions? And just for your knowledge, if you ask Alexa who the mayor of Merritt is, it's still Linda Brown. But you guys are all right.
We will get talking to Google.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Unfinished business, 4.1, 2023-2027 tax considerations to be introduced by Ms. Thiessen. And you're up.
Greg, do you have my PowerPoint as well? Is that showing up? Oh, okay, good. I wasn't sure whether you had it. Okay. Well, it's nice to see everybody again. Back at it. So I wrote this report where, as we have the May 15th deadline, we really need to staff needs some direction on what the level of tax rate you guys would like us to work towards. So I think the report's fairly self-explanatory. I took a look at the 5% residential tax increase and the 3% residential tax increase, which we presented at the last meeting. And I also did another option where we've adjusted the multiples in classes 4 and 5 so that they didn't see a significant decrease, their taxes. So I kept the tax increase in line with what their assessment increase was, so it was about the same change as for the residential at the 5 or the 3%. So the charts in the report give you an idea of what the impact of those changes would be. And then at the back, I've got some comparatives. So I've just prepared a short presentation that shows you a bit more detail on the different tax rates. So we have what we consider gold standard communities. Now, a few years ago, it's really hard to do a gold standard because everything is so different with municipalities. So if you say, well, we're going to compare ourselves to these 6 municipalities, but they don't have a pool or they don't have an arena. So we went through, a few years ago, we went through and found some municipalities that were very similar as far as recreation facilities and expenses, similar population range, just to give us something to compare ourselves against. So the 6 municipalities that we've been comparing ourselves against over the last few years are Smithers, Creston, Hope, Fernie, Castlegar, and Revelstoke. So it just, because there are 161 municipalities in the province, and if you're comparing against all 161, it's kind of hard to tell. There's some significant differences. So this is a copy of what I attached to the back of the report, the taxes and fees on the representative house. This was for 2022. And so for the province's figures, they used $407,868 for the average house in Merritt. It's a little bit lower than what we generally have used, but then I would assume that it's probably lower. I'm not sure what values they're using. It's not the BC assessment, but so you can see the different levels of taxes, the school taxes, general, municipal, as they go across. Regional district and hospital. Now, you'll see Castlegar's regional district taxes are quite a bit higher, as are Creston. And that could be because those regional districts provide greater services for them. They might be running the arenas or the pools, or there might be any number of items that the regional districts could be providing for them. And so then the total variable tax, residential tax, variable rate taxes are $2,763 for Merritt. And the highest is Fernie at $4,400 for an average house. So it's just interesting to see, and on this, when you look at this number, Merritt compares quite favorably with these properties. Now, with these municipalities, and overall in the province, Merritt was 75th out of 161 municipalities. So we're right in the middle of the distribution if you look at the chart as a whole. And this is just a graph, again, showing the same thing that we saw. I don't know if my mouse will show up on or my finger. Yes.
Could you just back up to the prior slide?
Just hold on a sec. Councillor Newman has a question.
Oh, yeah, my question was just in regards to these comparable communities, if each one of those paid, there was a confirmation that they also paid separate garbage rates and
Yes.
water?
Yeah, that is in the last two, or the second, not the last column, but the next two columns are total residential parcel taxes and total residential user fees. That would be their water, sewer, and garbage that pay over and above their taxes. Perfect. So it's included in there.
CEO Smith?
Yeah, that is exactly what I was going to highlight, because I know that council had some questions about parcel taxes, which, as we indicated, generally goes to serving the capital, upgrading capital of those systems. And so noting that the city actually does have the highest parcel taxes of any of these comparator communities, which is one of the things I see as a strength, because that does go to infrastructure updating and improving. So on a comparative basis, we're doing better on parcel tax collection, which ultimately feeds the capital systems. Our user fees for utilities are actually comparatively average, if on the low side. So,
anything else?
Do we have that?
No. Oh, the one that we just had?
Like the one that I'm looking at, that was given to me today, doesn't have the hospital or school taxes or the split.
Yes. Oh, okay. I didn't. In this one, I didn't spread the whole thing out. I condensed it to make it fit on the report. But I can send you a copy of this presentation. Yep, with this amount. For sure. Yeah, I didn't realize that I had. Yep, so it didn't show the hospital and the.
Right.
I was just focusing on the just the totals.
So is the,
Mike, please. Councillor Turney.
So the school tax is included in this, your table 1?
Yes. What I've done on this, on what you have in the agenda that I sent out, you'll see I just collapsed. I hid the column school, general, municipality, municipal, like those columns in between. 1, 2, 3, the 5 columns in between. It goes from the house value to the total residential.
So the total residential includes the hospital.
So it goes to here, right here.
that's correct.
So it's these columns right here
Yeah.
have just been collapsed. So you can't see them
Okay.
on the report that I circulated. These are all available on the provincial website for the media events here. If you just look up BC stats or LGD stats, you can come up with all of these spreadsheets. We can look at the spreadsheet as a whole, and I am going to print it out on a poster size thing, which will show Merritt quite clearly where we are, that we're right in the middle for the open house tomorrow night. So it's just, by the time you bring it up on any screens here, it would be way too hard to read. And then this is just a different view of the same thing that we just looked at. This is just the municipal portion, not the hospital and school. And the BC average is around $2,900, and Merritt is around 27. So we're 4.5% below the BC average. So as we looked at the other breakdown, we had more with school T&R taxes, it was higher. But so this compares the actual, just the municipal portion, the portion that we are considering tonight. But that partly is because Merritt is relatively independent from the regional district for a lot of our services. We provide our own mosquito or our own things like that. And then this chart it's probably kind of hard to see, but it just shows where the mill rates have gone over the since 2017. And then the 4 different options that we've presented in the report and where it would go. So you see on the residential for option A, which is a 5% tax increase, it would be a reduction of 7.3% in the mill rate, and for the 3% it would be a reduction of 9.1% in the mill rate on the residential. And then this is where you can see where I've made the adjustments on the major industry rate and the lower industry rate under option A or option B, and then option D, sorry, I only adjusted the major industry rate because when you went to 3%, it didn't make that big of a difference to the.
Just a question again in regards to the comparable, the comparable communities. Both Revelstoke and Fernie are more on the side, I would say, of like a resort municipality where they offer ski hills and, great things within their areas, which we kind of don't have that niche market, so to speak. So I'm wondering, is there another 2 communities that might be, and not for today, but I just mean going forward, that are more comparable to Merritt in the same, like I look at Hope and Castlegar, yes, both definitely smaller communities that maybe don't have world-renowned ski hills in their back doorsteps to kind of help them out a little bit. So
Although it's interesting because when you look at table 2 in the staff report, which I unfortunately didn't bring up on this on the presentation, I don't think, the Fernie, which is a resort, has the highest municipal taxes per capita. You would think when they had other things going for it, they might not need so much. I don't think that's the end. Yeah, no, that's definitely, I mean, staff can at some point probably relook at and just see if there are other municipalities that fit better. This is just the comparatives we've used for the last 4 or 5 years.
Could you just tell me what the TCD letters stand for type in table 2?
Oh, town, city, district. Yeah.
CEO Smith?
Yeah, I think that one of the challenges is that even if you find one that it's comparable in one way, it ends up being not comparable in another. And so at one point we had Peachland on this, which is significantly smaller, and we had Summerland, which is significantly larger, but they both had some pretty weird Okanagan skews in terms of the actual services offered. And so we ended up looking at it and saying, just very difficult to compare there. And so I think that we can and will. I don't have any concerns with that. I think it's a fair point. We just want to acknowledge it. When we went through the list the last time around, it was almost every time we found one that was comparable in population, you'd call through and you're like, and the TNRD delivers all these services for you. Like, not going to work for comparing the municipal taxes. It might work for looking at the overall tax bill. It's just that a lot higher proportion of that is going to be borne by the TNRD than the municipality. And so we take your point that you want to take a look at what other comparable communities there might be, just to refresh and update that list.
Yeah, and just when you're at meetings, like I'd just like to say, when you're at meetings like SILGA, and if you're talking to other municipalities and you find that they seem to have a lot in common, that's a good information to pass on. Because, you know, back at the office here, we're looking at pretty boring statistics and things like that, but you might find that there's similar things. Well, that's weird. I was trying to switch my screen. How do I do that? Obviously, I chose just PowerPoint and then it didn't.
Leo Smith?
I'll just provide one comment while Sheila's doing that. The other thing that I do want to add is that in all cases, it's never going to make sense to compare Merritt to a population sub 5,000 or greater than 15,000, just because one of the largest expenses on the municipal line is RCMP. And so we have to be in that band at a minimum in order to have any direct comparison, because that's the range for the split where it's 70% municipal funded, 30% provincial. Anything sub 5,000, no sense in comparing statistics because they're just too big of a line that's carried elsewhere. Above 15,000 as well, they're just looking at a different challenge. And so we can bring back ones, and we have used ones in the kind of over 10,000 area before. There were some that were on the island that were decent comparators, especially when you start getting in how many kilometers of road is within the municipality and other things for getting a sense as to what the real statistics are. So we can bring other ones back. You just have to take it with a grain of salt, so that when we get to the Quesnels and the Williams Lakes and some of the other, Terrace I think is another one that is sort of in the population range, we end up having a few different factors there. Yeah, it's the province of BC is very diverse in the municipalities. Out of 161 municipalities, over 80 of them are under 5,000 people. So there's not that many within our kind of range, and there's not very many in the up above 150,000 people. There's only about 6. So there's it's a lot of smaller municipalities. So there's the other table 2 on your report that I'd summarized was the municipal taxes per capita based on, and I just pulled up, this is the full spreadsheet and it looks at the taxes collected from each property tax, like each assessment group, sorry. And I was just gonna try and bring up Revelstoke and see what theirs, got it in alphabetical, no I don't have it in alphabetical order here. There we go, that should be better. Well, it just kind of shifted. There's Revelstoke right there. So you can see Revelstoke has a large portion of their money comes from residential, of their taxes. More than 80%.
Yeah. Yeah. And business and other, and not so much from major industry or light industry. Recreation is a little bit larger, but not. So this is an interesting table as well. So if anybody's interested, I can email it out to you to take a look at. Just for comparisons, and you'll see some other municipalities have way larger, like if we looked at, well, I was going to say even like Logan Lake, because with the mine, there's significant differences in some of them. So that one hurts.
Don't let Sean see it. It's no good movie for him.
Why? Oh, what some of the assessments are? Okay, we won't look at that. But that's basically what I have for just to support the tax. Just to be kind of, well, maybe I should say maybe a little bit on the blunt side is we know that looking at the infrastructure deficit and some of the other things is that there's no way that we can possibly tax to fund everything we want to fund. So council's decision is what level are you comfortable with taxing this year? And I really wish we were further along on where we were with our year end and reserves and surpluses, but I'm sure everyone in this room understands how much has gone on since 2021 in Merritt as far as response and recovery. And we are just in the process of trying to make sure that that's all captured correctly, and so we can do our financial statements and everything is done. So we're just not there yet, unfortunately, with some of the staffing challenges and things we've been facing. So, because life goes on, we've been doing everything else. Everything else has been maintained, and the water's going. But it's just to get down to the financial reporting, we're a little bit behind. So this tax decision needs to be made, unfortunately, this year without the full picture that you would normally have in most years.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from council before I move on? Okay. Move on to 4.2. 2023-2027 financial plan modifications. Ms. Thiessen, to you.
So just before I came down here tonight, I emailed out to the council the spreadsheet that we're going to be looking at next. So if you have your laptop, but just say you don't need it because you have a copy of it in your package. So it had been requested before, so I thought I would email it out. It's not it. Here we are. Sorry, Greg, I'm not as smooth on this today. Now I have to go back in here and share. I don't remember this being such a nuisance before. There we go. So at the top of the spreadsheet here, let's see if I can make it bigger so that we can see it all. Right up here, I have the total funding request, this is the total from the bottom of the page. And then as we go through, if we mark anything on here, we can update that total. So we can, if we're eliminating anything, we can take that out and that would drop that balance. And so those of you, if you happen to have it on your computer, you can play with it on your own. Let's see. So what you would do is put something in the status and then we could just sort out the ones we didn't want.
Councilor Newman?
Sorry, if you could just repeat that, if we could put something in the status.
Well, in the status column, you could put yes or no or include.
Oh, okay.
And so if you put whatever you want to put, if you want to put no, then when you go here, if you just take out the no, then it'll remove it from the total up above.
Ah, okay.
When you click on that sort arrow.
Okay, thank you.
Now I have to go back and make sure I remove that no, because I'm not even sure what that one is. Though that's, Greg's having a little panic attack over there as I went through it. So I did the report, but I'll just summarize the report for you guys as to the changes between this list. It's a little bit smaller than what we did before. And there were also some amended pages for your package. Just because we had some new information come in. So the big changes were that we've got updated information related to the Cleesby extension and Boat Street project, which included allocating the water and sewer portions. The movement of the water and sewer modeling to the water and sewer fund request, which we discussed at the last ones. And then we also removed several operating items that were either safety or regulatory related, we'll just directly input those into the budget. And also moved requests that were strictly for inflationary increases, because really those items as discussed before, really aren't optional if we want to carry on with the current service levels. So, and I eliminated for tonight's consideration any request for 2024 and beyond, unless the decision was required in 2023, because there is a fire truck that they need approval before they can order it. And then the adjustment of the recreation capital requests. So there's the director or manager of recreation and facilities changed the scope on the clay banks project. And then also we moved some of their projects forward into 2024. And
Councilor Newman.
Question in regards to the Claybanks project that's been scaled back. Is there an opportunity to approve this in principle pending a further review of the plan as a whole for the budget?
For approve the Claybanks project, like the $30,000 portion?
Well, yes, the portion that we're talking about tonight, yes, approving that in principle so that it affects the budget, but going forward, having that brought back to council for a review in plans in its entirety before proceeding?
Yes, and that would go for most items. Anything, if it's subject to grant funding, you could approve it if it was, if it met grant funding, or you could approve it if it meets, certain criteria. So you can specify.
CEO Smith.
Thank you. Yeah, we heard from the last one, just so you guys know, internally we've discussed where we are going to have likely a committee of the whole to go over the Claybanks operation, probably independent of budget, because I actually think there was another question from one of the councillors today wanting to talk about Claybanks and potential expansion, what makes sense for ongoing operations here. So I promise we heard you on the last one, and we want to have a session on that. So I think that realistically the 30 that's in here now is to get it back to its steady state, but we do know that you want to have a session to discuss Claybanks in its totality.
Yes, and if I can be clear, the $30,000 that is there is to cover anything that insurance doesn't cover, and by approving it, it doesn't mean that it will automatically get spent, but it gives the manager of recreation facilities, when they're actually doing the rebuild, if something comes up that isn't covered, then he knows he's got a little bit of room to get it done without having to come to council in order to get things up and running. I thought somebody else had a question. Okay, so on this list, we're looking at the adjusted operating request list right now. Is there anything in here that council is for sure they want to approve, want to not approve, or just need some more information, or would like to discuss?
So I guess for myself, Sheila, maybe because this is from the old way of doing things, when do we actually get into talking about these items as they are in our book?
Well, we can do that right now.
That's where I'd like to go.
Yeah.
This is the third meeting. We have yet to discuss a single thing in here, really, to where we can move forward and start saying, let's consider this, let's remove this, let's talk about this.
Yep.
That's where I'd like to get to. Because I think we're floundering at this point.
Okay.
I think that's where we need to go, because once we get into that and we get to the part for Claybanks, we may not need a committee of the whole, because we may answer it as we're discussing what we're doing with the budgeting.
Okay.
So if council has no problems with it, I kind of like to dive into this thing and get going if it's okay.
Okay, so we can start right off the bat. The first one on there is the request for the new position for the records coordinator. And that is on page 4 of the backup.
CLO Smith, do you have, I see your mic is on there, sorry. Councillor Newman.
So just reviewing new positions as a whole right now. I know I spoke in favor of this. I believe it was either at the last budget meeting or the meeting before that. But as it stands right now, I am not in favor of proceeding with any new positions within the city office as it stands. This is obviously my own thoughts. But I would just like to hold off on hiring any additional folks at this time.
Are you making a motion?
I can go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that. Yeah, if it needs to be in the form of a motion to remove this, but I think we don't need a motion to remove it as much as we need to just not include it, correct?
Well, but we just need to know if there's consensus.
Yeah,
Okay,
the rest of council should be.
All right, then I
involved,
will make a motion that we remove the records coordinator position at this time and reconsider it in the 2024 budget.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Egan. Question or any more comments on that? So, for myself, it's been fairly obvious that this is something that we're lacking in, something that we're behind in. I think pushing this to 2024 is going to make a whole lot of difference, so I'm going to support it myself. I think we need to get into the 23rd century at some point in time, so I'll support it. I'd like to see it go forward.
No, I said it probably wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Eventually need to have
Mhm.
That's how far behind we are. So
the motion that we're talking about is whether we just remove this thing. So that's where we're at. So, Councillor Egan.
I would also tend to support that we encourage this records coordinator position, mainly just with the discussions that I've had with the staff. And we are so far behind that we really do need to get caught up. And I think this is...
Again, the motion is just whether we pull this out before we discuss it. I kind of got off on a tangent, my mistake.
Okay, well, I thought I'd already seconded it.
Yeah, so I guess I'm just seeing if there's any other questions before I call the vote.
Okay, sorry.
That was my bad. So on the question to pull this out, all those in favor? Opposed? Defeated, so it will stay in. So let's move on to now discussing it. I've said my piece. Dana, you've said, or Councillor Egan, you've said your piece. Anybody else got anything to say on it? Councillor Newman.
And just for clarity, it was not to remove it entirely, it was to remove it for this year and move it forward to 2024, which has now been defeated.
Yep. And not to remove it entirely. Any other thoughts on what's in front of you as far as the records keeping? So I guess all those in favor so just so I get this straight, it's a long time since I've done budget. We don't have to make it, we just move on to the say.
Yeah, just let me know when, yeah, that's all I need to know. So we'll keep it in.
Keep it in.
And yeah, and anything else that, if you can eliminate anything, then that makes it easier, and then I will draft the budget, including everything, and then if we're financially strapped, then we would have to come back to council for priorities.
I'm going to make a second attempt at this through the social development coordinator position, which is line 2023 OP-6. Just following up on my previous conversation, it's not that I wasn't in favor with this last time, but with our current situation, I do believe that we do not need to hire any further positions at City Hall.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Chern. On the question to pull this one out as well.
And send to 2024.
And send to the 2024 budget.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Seeing no questions, I'll call all those in favor. Opposed? Carried. It's pulled.
It's pulled.
Okay, so.
Move to 2024.
Yes, please.
Okay. It's good. Not that that's good, but we're making some progress. That's what I'm saying. We're making. The second one down was the action and reconciliation. for $90,000.
What's the, my eyes are horrific and I don't have the,
It's on the blue sheet.
Second line.
I just wanted to add one item here is that as we discussed the last time around, I think that council does have a third option, which is if you desire to keep it in, you could reduce the amount given where we are in the year for this year, and we would still be okay. And so I think an amount, if you wanted to keep it in, a reduction to 50,000 wouldn't jeopardize the overall intent of the program. If you want to do something else with it, go your way, but I did want to flag that in circumstances where there's still a lot of groundwork that needs to be laid to set up the referral program, the 60,000 that's allocated there in particular, I don't think that you would need that for this year. And I do think that there are, I'm hearing about grants that might be coming that would.
What do you,
The actioning reconciliation?
that's 90,000.
Correct, 60,000 of it was for the referral portion.
Okay.
Of the 60 of the 90 in the sheet itself, it has 10,000 per band. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So for the actual referrals on projects, I don't think that because of where we are and we haven't used any of those funds so far this year, you wouldn't need the full 60 for this year. That's what I was getting at, because we don't have the program set up. My apologies for confusing everything.
In my opinion, I think even 60,000 is a large amount. I think that we have been moving ahead with reconciliation. There are other groups in town that are moving ahead with reconciliation, and I think that's a large amount. If we continue to work with our community to community or council to council, I don't see it coming to that much of a cost. I think it's a large amount to spend on something that we are working on ongoing that doesn't really seem to cost that much money.
okay. Councillor Egan?
I would just like to add my support of what Councillor Chani just said, and I also would like to know if you could describe what you mean by referrals. What are we giving each band $10,000 for?
CO Smith.
Thank you. Through to Councillor Egan. So it's not giving the dollars. What generally happens is when we're required to make referrals on projects, so let's say it's diking projects, bridge reconstruction projects, whatever that is, there is limited capacity at the bands to actually process those applications in terms of financial capacity. And so there is an expectation or a protocol that the city pays for the cost of bands to review referral applications. That's where I'm suggesting that there has been talk of grant programs that may kick up on that in the future, but they haven't materialized just yet. And so to support bands in doing that work, these would be the funds. As I think Councillor Newman said at a previous meeting, we try to, like for grant funded projects, we've been able to include those costs in with the overall project. But one of the items that's listed in Council's official community plan is working through a referral model for in the city development applications, figuring out which of those applications would necessitate referrals to the communities and which ones wouldn't. And that when we get to that spot, that there would be some compensation to review those applications. So that's the idea behind it. If I didn't say it as well as Lacey said it, please don't shoot the messenger.
Councillor Robin?
It's understood that everyone wants to see this action item happening. So I would say that as well as Council Charney, that it's already happening. I have seen throughout the federal government and the provincial government some opportunities for grant funding, specifically for this action item. So I feel like we are working on creating a strategic partnership with all these bands that we can collaborate and work together towards this goal without spending that much money.
Okay. Any other comments? So on this one, Are we looking to Councillor Newman?
Oh, I was just going to make a motion after all the discussion that we reduce the budget on this to 70,000.
Do I have a seconder on that?
Ooh.
So, okay, a little bit more discussion, and that's where this is going to happen. Oh, Councillor Charney, go ahead. Sorry.
I even think reducing it to 70,000 is still too much for our budget when we have safety in the community that has to be addressed and infrastructure that has to be addressed, and we are duplicating what is already happening within the province, within the community.
How about,
I would like to see it eliminated.
how about one of the things that we have done before is we red light an item, we move it we move on to the next one, we put a red light beside this one, so we can discuss it once we've got the budget where we want it and we have any extra money we feel.
Yeah.
But we've done that in the past because it's what we've done. So, I mean, that's just a suggestion.
Oh, and we
Thought you were
could,
coming to hit me.
if council wishes, I could just in the comments put, possible grant funding or we can red light it.
Well, let's see what the rest of the council has to say. Councillor Orban?
Yeah, so I just want to hear from the staff because I don't want to assign an action item and not giving the tools and resources that is needed to complete the project. So what is the minimum amount required? Because we want to see that happening, but we want to make sure that it's not going to affect any other project.
CEO Smith.
If you want a specific minimum amount, I would ask for the opportunity to go and speak with the Director of Planning and Development Services on that. I feel like if I do it, I'm a little bit picking a number out of a hat, and so allow me that opportunity. What I will say is the logic behind having some number attached to this is when we engage with the communities to say, hey, in good faith, we want to start up a referral program. What might this look like? If there's no budget assigned to that, it's not going to get very far in those discussions. And so I think having a number there is of value. If that number is not 90,000 or 70,000 or 50,000, having a number helps with an idea to move from there. So if you want a specific number, we can come back, but I would highly recommend there be a number there, even if it is significantly lower than what is down.
Councillor Richard?
Well, I don't disagree with the comments around the table that maybe we are doing some of this positive work. I also think that we need to have a budget for working with the bands to have something in place because we may get grant funding and we might not, but we need to move forward with helping the bands and being their support team and having the staff and the resources and kind of taking a role with them to work with them, and there's costs attached that maybe they don't have all the funding right away, and even if we put something in, then we have to make an adjustment later. We have to put something in the budget because May 15th is coming quickly. Even if we cut it in half and met in the middle or something, we can always adjust it. I think that saying zero might send the wrong message that we don't want to say. So we could lower it. I don't think eliminating would look at a positive outlook at this point. That's just all I think. I agree with your comments, but I don't think zero.
I think at this point with CEO Smith's comments, I think we should probably redline, not red light, redline this until we get more information because we need to get the information because we don't want to put a number in that absolutely going to do absolutely nothing. So do we, no, we just agree. At the end of this, we make a motion for all of what we've done, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. So yeah, we'll just, I would prefer, as CEO Smith, get some more information on this one. It's important, but.
Okay. Next one is the climate adaptation and mitigation strategy. There's a possibility for, it says funding other than that this could possibly be grant funded, so we will just leave that probably as a grant. I think even if it's not, we have some funding in our climate action reserve. So.
Well, I think after everything we've gone through, I think it'd be kind of crazy not to have some sort of a plan.
Yes.
I mean.
To work on that
But,
Yeah.
and because there are other funding sources. The other, next one is the e-permitting. For $50,000.
Councillor Newman.
Just a question of staff. I know this was something that we discussed at the last meeting as well, but just to refresh my memory, was this just for the implementation, or is this bringing in somebody from outside? This is just staff time?
CEO Smith?
This will be for the bringing in of a system, whether it's a cloud-based system, software-based system, to allow us to go out for RFP or request for expression of interest. We've been having some of those discussions already, but it would be bringing in a solution to actually facilitate the permitting process. So not a staff position or staff time, it's the solution itself.
Thank you.
Councillor Chun?
I am strongly in favor of this. After going to the housing summit, all the cities are moving towards e-permitting to make the permits quicker to process, etc. So I support this 100%.
Councillor Egan?
I agree. I support 100%.
Councillor Hitchart?
Well, they already said what I was going to say, because that's what they
Okay, I'll just kill you, Mike.
Yeah.
So that one's included.
That's included.
Okay. And the one below that we've already dealt with. Fire department is looking for an increase of $2,000 to their employee recognition. Now, I left this one in because it's not mandatory and it's not regulatory. It's a discretionary expense.
Anyone have anything on that? Any issues? Leave it in. Moving on.
Okay. After that is an increase to conferences. Same thing again, same reason before it was left in. And part of the increase for conferences is the fact that we now have 2 more officers in the fire department. So this is a $2,500 increase.
Good money for the value, I think. We'll leave that one in.
And the same thing again for training. So I'm just thinking we're probably on the same page. I just wanted to make sure that there was. Okay, then the next one is the snow removal project for the Snow Angels program. That was budgeted at $10,000. There again, this is council could set at a limit, I guess, if they felt $10,000 was.
Councillor Newman.
I just wanted to say that I'm totally in favor of this project. I think with the amount of seniors in our community that this could assist in our short winter months, that as much as it is a dollar figure, I think it's imperative.
Councillor Chun.
I'm kind of in the opposite. I was talking to Chilliwack the other day, and they have a total volunteer system run through their seniors group, and all volunteer. It doesn't cost the city anything for their Snow Angels program. I know Chilliwack doesn't get the amount of snow we do. Have to agree on that. But I think that we could either reduce this, but we could look into the possibility of setting up a volunteer system where people say, okay, I will do 2 or 3 driveways, or I will do this person's house and I'll do this person's house, versus $10,000 from the city budget.
CEO Smith.
My take on this is that if there is an organization that is stepping forward willing to lead and coordinate that, I'm 100% on board with that approach. If this is the city trying to facilitate and coordinate that, I guarantee you that not only will it, I'm hesitant as to its degree of success, but we will spend more than $10,000 in staff time trying to coordinate this. So if this is going to be city-led, and you want to see the service go forward, I would probably leave it. If you think that there's another organization that might take that on before you make that budget decision, totally a fair point.
And I do believe you tried in the past to have the volunteer.
Councillor Ogan.
Yep, I think that we have gone through that experience already. We know what's going to happen if the city is going to lead this program. I think that it's going to be even short of money. I think that 10,000 is a good start, and I feel like there is an opportunity to have that volunteer-based program in future years if we start working now.
Councilor Richard.
Based on the session that we had, the Help at Home or whatever, Better at Home program that we had, they were actually looking for us to contribute the 20,000. So even at the 10,000, it's going to be reduced from what we had because they had the availability for 50. So being that when we ran it before, we didn't have much more than a couple of volunteers, I think that if we don't keep this in here, I think we're going to have nothing and probably a lot more dangerous sidewalks than we've had. So I support it. That's just me.
Councilor Charney?
I didn't mean to have the city lead it. I meant an organization, but I can see leaving it in this year and looking towards getting a volunteer system set up and running for the next year.
And, we had a look at that from the group that was here, United Way. They've dropped it down to 7,000, what they can put in this year as well. So they've dropped quite a bit. So the Snow Angel thing is kind of an interesting thing. It's something everybody wants, but not a lot of people really want to volunteer when the time comes. And then there's the issue of, there has to be safety checks and all the rest that goes with that kind of thing too. So I'm not unsupportive. I'll support it. I think it's needed for the seniors. I mean, I am one, so. I am. Councilor.
Your driveway.
I'll give you a two.
I'm just a question of staff, though, if possibly this is, because obviously just with the discussion sitting at the table, this is something that obviously we support, but we're trying to find an alternative to. So I'm just wondering if this would be able to be sent to one of the committees that maybe they could discuss this going forward so it's not falling off the radar before next budget season. I just don't know.
Age friendly?
Possibly age friendly, I guess. So
I think making a resolution to that effect would be completely appropriate. Bring it forward at a future council meeting.
Okay, so you want a recommendation to send it to the age friendly?
A review of this program to the Age Friendly and Accessibility Committee.
Yep, that will be my motion.
Okay, so we're in agreement. We're going to have it this year, and we're going to move it to the age friendly crew. Is that what I'm hearing? That's Councillor Newman's. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Petrosi, but before we go ahead, I see Councillor Ogan has his light on, so.
Yeah, I was thinking to volunteer the youth committee, to review this initiative and go from there, right?
So,
yeah.
Well, once your committee's up,
yes,
something to discuss. So actually, it could go to both. Why not? So, all those in favor? Opposed? None? Carried. Good. Moving on.
Okay, the next one is a request from the IT department to add 15,000 to computer software maintenance account. And there is on page 19, I've got two sets of page numbers, I think, but the request, but it doesn't have a lot of detail on it, but perhaps Mr. Lois can provide some background on that.
Mr. Lewis.
So the 15,000, this was recommended by our manager of IT. This included concerns about the current state of licensing in the city, where so there are some things that essentially we're using where we don't necessarily have the correct number of licenses for the number of users that we have. There are issues around, there's some new software that we want to bring in order to improve our, again, record keeping and our ability to know who has access to what information, to ensure our information security systems are fully up to scratch. It would also go, there's some issues around IT security as well, which again, that's going to come up. That's much more of an issue with the firewall, but it is still an issue with software as well.
So just so you know, in my past world as an IT person, one of my jobs was licensing and making sure people had the right licenses. And it can be as high as $10,000 per infraction per person in the office if you're using an unlicensed or a bootleg copy. So that's why my job was created, was to save my company hundreds of thousands a year. So this is a small drop in the bucket to make sure that we're covered. So I'll support it. I'm fine with it. Anyone else? We're good.
We're good on that one. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Laws.
The second one is from IT as well, and that was to recable the old portion of the fire hall. There's a bunch of IT cables in there that need to be replaced for safety and a variety. Well, I guess not safety, but they're unsightly. Let's put it that way.
Any opposition? Any comments? Good to go.
Okay. Public Works is asking for $61,000 for an engineering consultant. And a use of budget for engineering consultants. For in the description here, they're saying that tendering and engineering extension services have been used over the past few years to assist with workloads and staff turnover, still required to maintain some consistency on many ongoing projects and programs, including development reviews. So when there's engineering on a major capital project, that would be included in the part of the capital, but there's a lot of engineering approvals that need to be done when a developer puts in a road or does something to a water system or does things like that. Then the city staff have to take a look at it to make sure it meets our standards. And I think that's what this is meant to address.
Councilor Turner?
The next line also is consultants. So we have engineering consultants for $61,000 and just consultants for $52,000 for a total of $113,000. What are just consultants?
The other consultants are consultants that are not considered engineers. Like, no, that seems, but the engineer, like, you need an engineer stamp on certain things, so you would use an engineer.
Do you not have any engineers on staff? I thought we had some engineer people.
I think we have.
Rick's an engineer, but just being an engineer does not mean you're in a position to be able to stamp engineered documents. And so there might be a spot, we're actually talking about it, we're getting there for small civil projects, if we need to do paths and things like that, if we can get to the spot where we can do our own engineered drawings and design. We have survey equipment now, we can move toward that. But for most projects that we do, we don't do our in-house engineering drawings and stuff.
So there's a possibility we may not use this full 61?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a variable figure, and what I will flag for you guys is that when I saw the original number, which the request started at 101, and then it kind of tapers from there, this is partially related to excess of projects that are still stemming from the floods. We brought on engineers to assist with that, especially because we did go down a director at that time. So part of this is continuity of projects that they had taken on. And so in that review, what we'd looked at is that there's probably a way to make this work this year by dropping it from 101 to 61,000. So we thought this was the kind of lowered revised number. I strongly suspect that, well, I'm just going to say it. This is one area where if we need that stamp, we're going to go get it, even if we don't, and we're just going to go over budget. It's not one of these areas where it's like, hey, we can't do this. We're just going to do it. And this is our best estimate at what we can make that come in at. And so look at this more like an estimate rather than something that staff is taking as a maximum cap. If we have to go get it, we're going to go get it. And if we end up at 73, we had a 101 in there for some degree of contingency. I think there's a decent chance that 61 is going to be cutting it close.
Councilor Moon.
Just to comment on both of these while they're on the table, I will support both of them this year. However, going forward in future years, I'd like to see that obviously these consultants and contracted services should be included in per project basis. So I'd like to see that they should just be included with the project instead of being a separate line item. So I'm just thinking, this year I'm in full support. We need to get these projects done and bring in the additional contractors / engineers to get our projects done. But I really firmly believe that these should be embedded into each project scope.
Did you create a new word? Basises?
I meant basis, but yes, thank you. It's going in Scrabble dictionary tomorrow.
CEO Smith, you have any?
Yeah, in a lot of instances that will be possible, but I'd say for about half of these, that's going to be a lot more challenging because it's not necessarily wrapped up in a project. It's going to be for a standard operation. And so if we, as part of our bridge inspection program or something, there's some minor element that needs to be reviewed, fixed, something along those lines, we might be able to wrap some of that into a bridge inspection line, but that bridge inspection line might not have a project at the outset for what the specific job to go fix that thing actually is. And so I get what you're saying. You just want a bit more detail as to, don't give us a really lumpy consultant figure and just approve a whole thing. I want to know what specific consultants we're going at. So I understand your intent. I just want to give you a flag that sometimes that'll be easy and sometimes that's going to be hard.
Councillor Richard.
I was just saying, the only reason I support this is we were down the director, like you say, and then we don't always have the staff that can approve all the projects we've had to use over the last couple of years with some people moving on. So I think we just need to approve.
Councillor Charney, you were blinking. Are you no blinking no more?
I think they kind of asked.
Okay, thank you. So are we covering both of these since we've been talking about both, or are we going to do one at a time here? We'll do both? Okay. I don't see any opposition. Any opposition on both? Good to go.
Okay. The other one that I'm just going to add for that is that this is something of a test to figure out where, if we do add capacity, where it might be needed. Because of course, these are all things that you could bring in-house, but these are specialized, often expensive services. And so somebody who's expert at dike inspections, probably not going to need that as a year-round scope. And so how do we make some of these things work at the most effective cost? That's why we have it in here now. If we could find somebody that had that skill set for a quarter-time role and mix it with something else, hey, there might be some other opportunities for cost savings in the future.
Thank you. Moving on.
Next is contracted services through Public Works, and this is this kind of falls under the same consultants and contractors. Well, this is contracted, but for land survey work, technical equipment maintenance, and miscellaneous. So it's.
Councillor Egan?
I see it's been adjusted from 15,500 to 15,000, but he says no, you had no budget in 2022, and then there were many charges. How much is many charges?
Where are you?
That's on the sheet.
On the operating budget request 2023 OP-27.
28, 36.
Oh, no budget with many charges, yeah.
There's two numbers. You see the 20.
So it is just something that there had previously, probably due to the staffing changes last year, that there probably wasn't, they didn't use it, so there was no budget item, and they found they needed those items. I'm not sure, Sean, can you speak to that?
General amount?
I can confirm. So one thing that you will appreciate about Rick is he's fairly meticulous about where costs go. And so there are some areas where under the previous director, costs got very lumpy. So there was one contracted services line that was really, really high, and parsing that out into, okay, this is actually, Claire's going to like this, parsing it out into, okay, which service is this contracted service? Were they working up at the airport? Then it ought to be in the airport line. If they're working somewhere else, it ought to be in another line. And so this is one area under the contracted services for engineering services where, again, he's pointing at things like legal survey and review, where people, when he's looking at it, like, no, this ought to be coded where it's supposed to go, but there was no budget where it's supposed to go. And so some of this is not changing or increasing the spend, it's getting the spend where it needs to go, and I fully anticipate that that actually is going to end up in some reductions in other areas. The hard part is we're going to have to go through a full cycle in order to prove that out for you guys. So I really appreciate the way Rick has taken it. Okay, here's everything that ought to be going in this line. Here's everything that ought to be going in that line, so that when invoices come in, they're getting coded to the right spot, so that you can have a higher degree of confidence on a GL basis that, okay, we actually know what we spend on any given thing instead of seeing one big round number. So I think that this is one of those areas where there was approximately 15,000 that was coded there over the course of the last year, but there was no budget allocated to it. So he's saying this as a baseline. Let's start out with roughly what we did, and if it needs to get adjusted in future years, it will. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. Any other questions on this one? Pays to be a contractor, apparently. Good to go.
Okay. Slip down. This other one is relatively materials and supplies for engineering services. It's buying some specific equipment for checking grades and like two laser levels for checking grades for mostly pipe and drainage works. So having these tools will, I'm sure, help them with the engineering technician and Rick himself to do more stuff in-house.
Any questions, any comments? Good to go.
Okay. And the other one is engineering services, local travel and meetings. It's $1,000 just for local travel. In the past, I think there was more of a dedicated vehicle, and this is just to cover if there is some personal use of a vehicle.
Correct.
So
any comments?
We can reimburse.
Council okay? Moving on.
Parks and landscape materials and supplies. That's an increase, and give me a second to take a quick look at this. I knew these all quite. Yeah, this is just fixing up some irrigation systems at the aquatic center, replacing some overgrown junipers at Parkview. Don't know where Parkview is. Let me see. Is that Rotary?
Parkview is.
And then just extra. So it's just bringing in more materials and supplies, increasing the materials and supply budget by $5,100.
So on this kind of stuff, one year we were asked why we don't do perennials, put plants that return every year. Mm-hmm. We did that in 2015. We put them in on a Friday, and by Monday morning they were all gone. They were literally all stolen, so we stopped doing it. So that's when somebody says, why don't you put annuals in? That's exactly why. They just get taken. So you're going to get asked that question every year, so just so you're aware. They were all gone. Council, have anything other than,
I just wanted to add that over time, we really do want to be moving to more xeriscape type solutions as opposed to kind of the annual flower planting. We recognize that, and that transition is being planned for behind the scenes. Largely, we also hope that there's going to be a grant to support this overall transition, both for public and residents and for the city side, to be able to say that xeriscape incentive programs, they've been hugely successful where they've been implemented. And so if you can create some type of incentive or motivation for people to move from grass lawns or annual flowers to a natural native plant type solution, they tend to do it. And if the incentive isn't there, they tend to not do it. And so I think that we're on the lookout for a grant that would facilitate that.
But I have to be honest with you, xeriscaping is nice, but it's boring. There's no color. Communities that have color to their entrances and stuff, I think.
You're always going to have some flowers. There's no question. There's opportunities in places where we probably don't need to have flowers everywhere too.
Any other council considerations on this? We're good. Okay.
The next one is $6,800 for training for the Parks Department, Parks and Landscape. So this is like danger tree assessment, turf maintenance, just putting some money in the budget because previously I don't think there has been a high level of training for this particular department. Danger tree assessment particularly is something that we've spent money on over the years. If we could have somebody in-house do the danger tree assessment, it would be much better.
Yeah, this will pay for itself. That's all I want to say. This is 100% going to save you money.
Oh, Councillor Chani.
I have no problems with the danger tree assessment training, but a lot of these people that work on the parks and that are part-time, and if we put money into training them, and then next year they don't come back, you know, I have a problem with that. Pardon? Oh.
It's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I know, but I think we have to look at how much training we put in. I mean, I don't have any training in gardening, but I can put a plant in and I can weed it, but I can't assess a dangerous tree. So I think maybe we have to look at the type of training, the amount of training that we are funding.
Steve Smith?
A fair point, and I do want to be clear that we're not necessarily taking training to figure out how to put a plant in. It's for those things that require a degree of specialization or training with it. What I will say is that while it is true that they might leave if you give them training, it is much higher degree of truth that they will leave if you don't give them training. And so for the costs that we're talking about here, you can do what you will with it, but just take my word for it. This is a very good investment that will not only reduce costs, but it'll make people feel like they're being invested in their careers and future growth. And so the types of training that we're sending people to do will add value for the city.
And Sean, is there not now a full-time, like year-round parks person?
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
So
a lot of the danger tree assessment and stuff, that would be the full-time person, not the seasonal.
An FTE, not a seasonal. Okay.
Yeah.
That was going to be my question. Councillor Charlie, you're looking confused.
Well,
do you need a cookie?
I might get my sugar level up. What type of training are we talking about?
So.
Oh, sorry. I thought you're never off.
Okay, I know, that's my apologies. So let's pick any one of these, but we'll pick one of the more innocuous ones because I think you understand what, you know, an irrigation tech or a chainsaw course might look like. But let's take the turf maintenance certificate. So when somebody goes for training, we do work to make sure that that knowledge is broadly diffused. So you might know how to mow a lawn right now, but would you know the best way to take care of a large sports field from a turf maintenance perspective, what the irrigation, aeration requirements, all of those different things are, to say, hey, how can we take this asset, because that's what this is, it's an asset, and make it as robust, long-lasting as possible, have the healthiest grass and all of these things, so that you're going to have a well-maintained asset. And so that certificate would give them the knowledge that they need, and then they take that information back and share it with the team broadly, so that we're improving the level of systems that we implement across the board. I could take that for a lot of these different areas, and if you want any more specific information on what training we provide, I can absolutely get it for you.
Some of the training, like the danger tree assessment, would be specific certification for that person. Because there would be a responsibility in there. The other ones would, and playground safety inspection course would probably be specific to the person. But the others, I think, could be, like you say, dispersed, the knowledge.
Councillor Charlie?
So we do have a parks person.
We have a few parks people, but we do have a park supervisor that is a full-time role.
So then would this park supervisor probably be taking a lot of these courses to pass on the information, so that we have one person that has a lot of this knowledge to pass on?
I suspect so. Please don't hold me to it, because I'm not, I don't know the exact situation. I can get it if it's relevant, but I don't know how else to say it. I promise you, Wendy, this is going to save you money that we are not going to have to spend on somebody else. Because if we don't, we hire one person to show up, they're going to give you a $2,500 bill to come look at your playground. So what we're not putting into our people, we're going to pay somebody else from another city to do. It's not local dollars. It just, this makes sense. If there's ever a time to just take it and move on, this is one of them.
Councillor Trozy?
You know, even if it was 10,000, we have to put money into our people. We do, to move forward. So I agree that 6,800 is, we have to move forward with that. Thank you.
Where'd Councillor Newman go? You were blinking.
I'm good.
Any other questions?
Okay, so we're including,
Somebody before we move on, somebody turn the heat up, please.
Well, actually, if you don't mind, I think maybe we'll take a 5-minute break here.
yep.
Councillor Charney needs a cookie, so,
Donuts too, there are donuts. You
yeah.
better
So let's
eat
take
those.
5 minutes here, please. Back at it. Okay, so now I have been approached by a couple people saying, let's get to the chase here. So I guess what we'll end up doing is we will go with the items that we are not wanting to support. So I'm not sure what everybody has. As I said, my binder has a lot of red in it at this point. So who wants to take a shot at something that's burning in there?
Okay.
Councilor Eden.
Moving on to capital requests. 2023 CP 007. 2023 CP 007.
You brought this upon yourself, Claire.
Page 80. It's page 80.
Thank you.
It would be one of the new pages that was redone.
Okay.
So it'd be, that's the clay banks.
Okay. It just, I'm concerned about what the part is that's not covered by insurance.
Oh, it would be just as they're rebuilding that rec hall. If there is something like maybe a change in light fixtures or things like that, that maybe insurance will only cover the bare basics and they want to upgrade it a little bit just for, I would assume it's things like that.
Okay, it says the initial cost here on that particular page, project cost is 330,000.
Yeah, that was for with the addition on top, with the dwelling and the office space. It's been, the scope's been brought down to just what the insurance would rebuild, which is that recreation hall.
Okay, so nothing above then?
Nothing above.
Okay.
So that 30,000 is just to cover anything that might come up that insurance might not want
to. Does anybody else have anything to say on that one?
That would leave the trailer as it is?
Yes, with the officer.
With a new furnace going in, because I believe that's an outstanding.
Yeah, and that is probably maybe what Sky has, he's not here tonight to, but you know, that might be the cost there as well.
Councilor Charney.
I have no problems with the 30,000, but I would also like to point out that I think we have to address Claybanks Park as to the direction it's going to go and how we manage it and income versus expenses. And so Sean's smiling there. So whether we make a motion to discuss it later on or just put it on an agenda, but I think we have to look at Claybanks Park for the future.
Okay.
Yeah. I agree. I think we talked about this earlier, and I tend to agree with you. Things have changed. I mean, we've lost land over there as well. So, so if everybody's cool with the 30,000, is that where we're standing? Is everybody okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then we will. Do we have to make a motion for that to talk about the Claybanks, or is that because we already kind of hinted on that several times now? So
yeah, no matter what anybody tells me at this point, we are bringing you forward a committee of the whole to talk about Claybanks so that this may rest forevermore.
Excellent.
And if I can just say, because it'll probably come up again, is the airport as well. Because it's a new council, and I know that was brought up when we talked about it as well.
Okay, so we're good to go on that one. 30,000.
Okay. Anybody else got?
And that's good because we have a November deadline on that. So, Councilor Charney again.
So I can go back on another one, or
yep.
Okay. Okay. So the Cleasby Street extension, which is on the same page, and it's for 813,200. As I stated last time, Merritt has existed from the beginning without that Cleasby Street extension, and I look at where money could be put in a better use. For example, Collettville. If you ever walk on Hill Street, you take your life in your hands. There are ditches there and nowhere to get out of traffic. And I think if we put in this extension and we ignore Collettville, our citizens are going to say, what the heck? And so I am totally against this extension. I really don't see the point. If it's 2 minutes for a fire, well, they've been waiting 2 minutes for a fire since the beginning of Merritt. So I personally do not think that this is a viable way of spending our money.
Councillor Newman.
When the fire chief was here, I believe it was 2 meetings ago, and he brought this up, I spoke in favor of reviewing the shortened path, because when somebody's life's on the line, I think anything we can do as a municipality to make that quicker is often a good choice. Now, with the dollar figure attached to it right now and other street projects that are on our table right now, I would like to review this again at great length just to see if there's maybe additional avenues we could take. Sorry. And
do you want to push this to 2024?
Yeah, and that's what I was just thinking. We'll bring it back again in 2024.
We'll see what Councillor Egan.
Yeah, I kind of agree on that. However, we've had some informal discussion on perhaps maybe that extension or that little avenue could be put in there and not paved, and maybe we could put it through at a much cheaper rate than $813,000, just so that possible lives could be saved.
The issue that I run into there with the gravel sections, you've got residents that live right there, and it's going to be dusty constantly. I was a big proponent of this when I sat on council, because I would rather go straight through than around. But now, as I see kids in that park and stuff, I'm totally just leave it as it is, leave it alone. It's not. I mean, I'm happy to move it to 2024 to talk about it a little bit. I see CEO Smith.
Just sent a quick email over to Mr. Lawis here to pull up. I really would like to frame this discussion, because it sounds like a lot of this is really for the purpose of the fire response. And so the chief's comments, while completely accurate, I do want you to know he was talking about that as a general principle. In particular, I think you might recall that he's saying, he talked about, maybe less so here, but especially on the Springbank corridor. So what we'll do is we'll pull up the 2012 fire hall location study, which shows what the different response times are to different areas within the community. And what you'll see is that this area is still receiving good response times. And so while, yes, faster is better, nobody's going to ever question that, it's so much better there than it ever is in an area like we've got. That's way better than other areas of the community, even with the extra jog around. And so if that is your primary reason for doing it, go up. I think that's a different, there's a few different studies in there, or a few different maps with different fire hall locations. It's the one on page 16.
Well, they're looking at Councillor Richard.
The one comment I wanted to make about the Cleesby location was there's that December 2014 urban systems plan that eventually, we have design plans for park and whatnot going through there, part of the active transportation plan as well. So I have a feeling that even if we don't do this now, it's going to come up again. It's going to come up again anyway. So, I mean, really, who are we kidding? We take it out this year, it's going to come back anyway, kind of like anyway, a bad cold.
That's the idea.
It's going to come up and haunt you again.
So that's the idea of moving it to 2024.
Yeah, so it'll come up because it'll be convenient. Right now, it's great parking for the Elks Bingo on Friday nights, but we'll get there.
And you have to also remember we're going to be replacing a building in there as well. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So Greg's got this zoomed in here. What I want you guys to know is this is a response time number, and you'll see on the left, the green is response within 7 minutes and 47 seconds. Yellow is within 9 minutes and 47 seconds, and red is within 11 minutes and 47 seconds. And so the reason Chief was talking about the The Springbank extension, you'll notice in the top right there, in the middle of all the yellow, you've got this giant red patch because we have to go around. And so that's a far bigger concern than what you see in the Cleasby Street extension area, where yes, you would get there faster, but you're trading something that is right on the edge of that best response time zone, 747, and now you're getting there within the yellow time. And so is that something that is still a consideration? It absolutely is. We don't want to minimize that. But in terms of, like, do we need to make this move? If we were talking about the extension for Springbank, we would probably be saying, yes, this is going to make sense. No matter what, we should really be doing that because we want to have our residents living in yellow at the least. But we also acknowledge that there can be changes in future developments, new fire hall locations, other things that can change that down the road. So for right now, I just don't want you making too much of a decision on the basis of response times because we're not overly problematic for that area.
Councillor Charney.
Councillor Etchart did bounce off that. That is also going to be cutting right across the active transportation plan. So it doesn't make sense to me to have a biking, walking, and then a stop sign for local traffic. Now, my understanding is that area is going to be shaved down. And so if there's a real emergency, I don't see a problem with the truck going up over a little bit and back down again. Because right now, four-wheel drive could go up that hill anyway. So, but that is the active transportation plan. So you'd be cutting that right off.
Councillor Rogan.
Yeah, so I just want to convey my support to move this to 2024. So just keep in mind that if I recall properly, this amount, this estimate is not updated. So it's a few years old. So we will review what's going to be the total grant cost at that time. So 2024 is going to be a good opportunity to do that. Thank you.
So do we want to push this to 2024? Councillor Newman.
I'll make it in the form of a motion that we move this to 2024 if that's what we're looking for.
I'll second it. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried to 2024. Next, who's got a red line? Councillor Eden.
Again, on that same page, it is 2023 CP 008. It says page 82, but I'm sure that's not what it is. Yes, actually it is page 82 of 213. And it says concession vent and window installation. I'm assuming that's at College Field.
Central Park?
Yeah, Central Park. It's the concession stand.
Mm-hmm.
So just a little bit of history on that. When that building was built, a concession stand was meant for cold service only. And it was supposed to be people that would be bringing in chips and pop and chocolate bars, stuff like that. And then halfway through the year, Jackie Taggart showed up with $24,000 to buy stoves and ovens and everything, and we took it and we bought it. But it was never designed to be vented in there, so there's an issue in there. For myself, I would like to pull this one as well because I would like to see that left as it is, where groups that want to fundraise other than cooking hot food, because it causes problems. And I've always been worried somebody's going to be gassed or asphyxiated in there. Now, that's just my view. I'll turn it over to anyone else. So I won't support that one. I want that one out. So,
anyways, I agree. I was bringing it up to say that I would like to not support it. And if you're planning on putting in ovens and et cetera, you're going to have to make that a whole enclosed environment, or it's just going to get vandalized anyways.
They're already there.
They're already in there.
Is already?
Yeah, they're already in there. That was the problem we had. It wasn't designed for what was put in there. So now we're playing catch up to a certain degree, but CO Smith can.
Yeah, the one point that I would say is the city has gone out to RFP, and you guys have seen that there's been people in that building, out of that building, in that building, out of that building. One of the requests that is always made is that if somebody is going to lease or rent the space, then they wanted to see the vent so that it's actually suitable for that cooking use. If council doesn't do that, that's totally fine. It can continue to be used as a concession, and that's not going to be a problem. We just want to flag for you that the interest in somebody kind of renting or leasing it in the long run is somewhat contingent on this type of work being done. If we don't do this, it might see less use or just on an event basis, which isn't the end of the world, but if council wants to, gain the potential revenue from it, then I think that is one of the things that might lead to it. So just want that to be a consideration in your decision making, but we're comfortable either way.
One of the issues that I have with it is whoever leases it is not going to make a zero dime through the winter. Simple as that. They're not going to make anything. That's why we lost the one tenant we had. Couldn't make ends meet through the winter. So just Councilor Rogan.
Yeah, I just want to mention that I am in favor, actually, of these renovations. I dealt with a few clients in the past that I was able to help them with some cash flow projections to be able to rent that space. So because of that situation, it was not the ideal situation for these clients. I feel like for that cost, the revenue is going to be covering easily that cost, even though it's seasonal. I understand that part, and I am in favor.
Councillor Newman, you have your light on.
Yes, just I'm first off curious if we have a parks master plan at all.
We do. We have a Parks, Rec, and Culture master plan. It is not one of your strongest master plans. We have it for 3 of the parks. One of them is the Central Park area, so it's included in there. But most of your small parks are not built into it. So we've got a plan. Here it is now, but we can circulate it after the meeting if it's of use to you.
It's probably, 2016? 2017.
So slightly dated. So my suggestion would be, obviously, all plans come with a dollar figure to have them updated, reviewed, but at the very least, I think council should have probably had an opportunity to review what the Parks Master Plan is first, and I would like to see, departments submit requests based on current plans that we already have in existence. So for me, all of the items that come forward listed under any of the parks, I don't have anything to compare them to. I don't have any knowledge. It's great to say I need a dugout on this park, I need infield on this, the track needs to be raised. There's so many different avenues of so many different parks that we need to take into consideration, and I feel that this, by picking off a few of the small fruits, all be better than not picking off any, is maybe not the approach we should be taking. But with that being said, CAO Smith said that we would lose revenue by possibly not doing this. So that leads me a little bit more in favor of this one alone. But I would like to see us review our parks and our master plan and see what's been needed on all of our parks versus piecemealing them here, there, and everywhere.
And that would be up to the managers to bring that forward as well. They work in that. So, any other comments on that? So I guess we are going to call for a motion on whether we would like that in or out. So I'll make the motion. Do I have a seconder?
What's the motion?
The motion is I want to remove it. I would like to have it removed, and I'm looking for a seconder. Councilor Petrosi. Any other comments on removal of the item? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Removed.
And I know my vote was against everything I just said.
Nobody's counting.
Next. Councilor Charney, you have something there?
Yeah, I'm going on to my next item. Mm-hmm. I have 2 in a row here.
Can you call out the number for us?
Okay. The same page, 033, Public Works Fleet Pickup Truck, Water/Sewer, $65,000. In this time of restraint and budget and inflation, I think that we could forego a pickup truck for the water and sewer and continue on with what we have. I think we have more pressing needs than a new truck. Should I go on to my next one or finish this
So
one?
let's finish this one.
Okay.
Comments from council? Councilor Egan.
Just wondering what the current truck is, what year is it and what shape is it in? If there is a current one that they have.
It is a replacement. It doesn't have, it just says it's one of their higher use vehicles, and, yeah. They probably, I can't really say out of turn, but they might be able to get another year out of this. I don't think it's, he doesn't say it's,
No, it doesn't say what the year is or what the mileage is on it or anything like that, so.
In future, I would like to see the odometer, the year, whether this has been moved forward or if this is a replacement that's basically on its last legs. And I'm not asking for the
repetitive R&M on it.
Yeah, and
what you're asking for is not unreasonable. This is all should be in a fleet management plan that you're bringing forward. So we're very cognizant of that.
so, yeah, and for some of these cases, I mean, I think it's quite reasonable for council to remove it from the budget at this time, and if something happened in the other vehicle, then they can come back to council at that time.
Hitchhiking, that's for sure. So
and you know, they can make an adjustment.
I think that's kind of the point I want to make here. A new pickup truck is different than a long lead time vehicle. So if this is any of the vehicles that we have to get a start on, if we want to see it 3 years from now, then get a start this year. Going and buying a new pickup truck and going out for tender on that or a competitive procurement, it's really pretty easy for us. And so I think that is a completely reasonable request, acknowledging that, again, the water sewer tends not to affect direct taxation. We charge for that, and that's kind of baked into our rates, but take it for what you will. It's not going to, nobody's crying about it either way.
Councilor Trick.
One thing, at least, when it comes to vehicles, they can always present to council throughout the year too, if something happened, if the truck completely died or something like that. And but sewer and water, I mean, is this the same truck that probably goes to all our breakages and leaks and stuff?
Yeah, we don't have that information tonight, unfortunately.
65, I think it's a pickup truck.
Yeah, but a lot of times they go to the call-outs that come at 3 a.m. for a burst line or something like that in the middle of winter.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
And as I've mentioned before, I mean, the budget, the only thing that's written in stone is the taxes that we collect from the budget. Anything else can be amended throughout the year as things come up, so.
So the order of the day is to pull this out. Everybody's fine with that? Out it goes. Next on the agenda, I have one. It's nothing major. It is 2023 CP 054, the Fire Smart Interpretive Garden, Micro Park. Give you guys a couple minutes to find that.
Page 174.
This is so fun. Ooh, what you gonna say about that? It's like everybody sits.
So for myself, I'm a big supporter of the fire department. I don't want to ever appear to be the person that cheaps out on the fire department and somebody gets hurt or killed, so I'll never do that. This is something that I think is, how do I put this? This is something you get after all your bills are paid. I like the idea of this. It's just, I think there's other ways that we could spend money at this point. I would like to move this to 2024. I would like to know more of what this is going to look like. I'd like to see if other fire departments have this, just to see what it looks like. C.O. Smith.
They don't, but if I can make a recommendation, if you left it in but left it grant conditional, so that if we get grant funding for it, then we could proceed with the project. If we don't, then we don't do the project. Only say that because, again, we want to be ready for, I'm hearing whispers on xeriscaping. So if that comes up and we have an opportunity to bring in some of these projects as part of that, I would like to be ready so that we can say, hey, we have a shelf-ready project. It's already budgeted. It's ready to go. But I am completely comfortable with you saying don't do it unless you get a grant.
Councillor Egan.
Oh, I was going to.
Councillor Newman.
Oh, I was just simply going to make a recommendation that we approve this in concept based on grant funding.
Oh, sure. Sure you were. If everybody's,
No, we got one more over here.
oh, Councillor Egan's back. Oh, hold on. Councillor Charney?
I also see that it does say possible grant, and I know that Chief talked about it, he was going to be putting fire safe plants or zero-scaping plants, for an example, for Merritt citizens to look at the type of garden you can have that is zero-scaping. I have no problems with that, and if we can get a grant, that would be perfect.
So we're all okay with grant funding for this?
Yep.
Excellent. There we go.
I got one other minor question. This is priced in part as if somebody else was doing it, but there is some chance as well that, like, firefighters or whatever the case is, a bit of sweat equity if we could get free or kind of second run product from elsewhere to do it. There might be a chance to do this for a lot cheaper than what you see on there, even if we don't get a grant. If we can do that, are you comfortable with us coming forward to you at a future meeting and saying, hey, here's the plan we're proposing. We didn't see the grant. Can we still proceed with doing this sweat equity and low cost? Are you guys comfortable if we bring that forward later?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. Next person that has something they'd like to see. Councillor Charney.
The very first page, 034 sidewalk, new sidewalk, Forksdale, 55,000. I know Mr. Green talked about people having to walk along the side of the road to get to the bus stop. Again, I'll bring up Collettville. They have bus stops there that they are right on the edge of the road. There's also one on Main Street that there is no sidewalk there, there's gravel. So I think for public appearance, we can't pick one area and say, well, they deserve a sidewalk, but these other areas don't deserve a sidewalk. So I would like to see that item eliminated.
Would you like to see it eliminated or moved to the accessibility committee? Because, I mean, maybe there's an opportunity for them to, because first of all, one of the people that's most likely going to be on the accessibility committee is in a wheelchair.
Okay, I can agree with that, but then I think if we're going to do that, then we have to bring up the whole of Collettville, because Collettville is not wheelchair accessible.
No, and you're right, the Collettville question has been there for a lot of years, yes. And you're right.
So, I would like to eliminate it.
Okay, that's fine. Councilor Petrosi.
I agree to eliminate it. I drive past that pretty much every day, that area, and the amount of people I see waiting for the bus or being dropped off is pretty minimal. So.
Yeah, you call it, Bill, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, so any other questions? We have, Councilor Hogan.
I just want to have a good understanding. When we said eliminated, meaning that it's going to be still in the list for a future year, or it's going to be gone?
Gone, but most likely to return the next time.
It'll come back to haunt you probably.
The other thing is to push it to 2024. If you want to go that route, where you want to see it again. I'm sure that Rick would bring this back again next year. He says it bothers him when he sees it. It's an unfinished sidewalk in the middle of nowhere. So I guess where we're at is to have it removed from this budget. That's what we've got. Is anybody against that and wants to support to put it in? Apparently it's gone. So moving on.
It sounds like there needs to be a bit more of a comprehensive plan for sidewalks.
I agree.
Citywide.
Yeah, I agree.
We can take that feedback back.
Anybody else? Councilor Egan?
No, I wanted to move on.
Yep.
Is that all right?
You betcha.
Okay. The Crawford and Gordon intersection analysis, $12,000.
Do you have a number for us?
It says new. It's 2023.
It's page 126.
Yeah, 126.
Oh, wait, 12,000.
Okay, 126.
So that's the four-way stop at Crawford and Gordon.
I'm thinking, where's Crawford and Gordon?
Where is that?
Right by Mr. Mike's. Boston Pizza.
Oh.
It's the one with the really confusing bollards up, so
Yes.
you don't go into this right lane,
Yeah, why is that there?
because the intersection needs analysis.
Yeah, it was designed. It was used for many years, but what ended up happening is people would get into turn and other people would turn with them, and there was a lot of side swipes up there. So they bollarded it out.
Yeah. Oh, the one going to Walmart.
Yes.
Got it.
So, Smith?
Yeah, I'm gonna say on this one here, this is not being brought up just like, this is in direct response to incidents, concerns, complaints, and other things. And so we need to do some systematic analysis so that we can figure out what the long-term solution for that intersection is going to be, because any solution that we've implemented so far has introduced confusion and has not necessarily been great. So I highly recommend you leave this one on, because for whatever reason, it's a slow speed intersection. You wouldn't think this caused problems, but it does.
Isn't it a four-way stop?
It is. Don't ask these questions. I don't understand it.
You have to
myself,
understand
but-
one thing, most of those truckers coming out of the Burger King, they don't see their stop sign and they just rifle through every single time, almost every time they come through. So,
I don't quite get this one, but we've had enough calls on it to know that it's not an isolated problem. For whatever reason, this is a confusing intersection.
so Councillor Egan, you would like it removed?
No, I just wanted more information on it.
Don't let him sway you.
I don't necessarily, I mean, it should be removed because, I mean, I guess KFS, right? Yeah. Yeah, and that's
So
why,
the
so it's hard to figure out.
class. Make me use my hammer. So we have
Because it's hard to.
Councillor Egan, would you like to
thank
make a
you.
motion to remove that?
No.
You just want us to support you?
I don't know what I want right now.
Does anybody else? How about we shut your mic off?
Oh, sorry. No, I haven't, I want to move on to something else.
No, wait a minute. So what was the item and what is your, did you have the item, Sheila?
It was the Crawford and
Yeah.
Gordon intersection analysis for
So-
$12,000.
Councillor Egan would like it removed. Anybody wish to support? Oh, Councillor Owen, there could be an ally here.
Well, yeah, I would like to support to leave it as it is. So we have heard from the staff, so how many phone calls he has received. So it's a concern in something that we cannot explain. So when I drive by, so it's even confusing for myself. So I can feel the pain of all these residents. So it's something that is needed.
So this could be like a tourist attraction.
It's needed.
So leaving it in? Sorry, Councillor Egan, leaving it in. Councillor Petrosi.
Well, I just wanted to say it's never been confusing to me, so I don't know where people are coming from.
Excellent, we'll send everybody your way.
Okay, one more item just below that, and it's about the air photo and
LiDAR.
LiDAR update. I just need to know what this is. Okay, would you like to explain that then?
Nope, Councillor, C.O. Smith.
You, every 5 or so years to update our GIS layers, as well as the mapping that we have and use for development purposes, et cetera, you get a flyover of the city with specialized camera equipment that you use to, it's almost like what you see on Google with their satellite imagery, but it's a flyover over the city of Merritt to build in all of your development-based data.
And to be honest with you, I had a person that I met up on the bench. I was given an aerial photo of what something looked like, and when I went up into their backyard to have a look, it was completely gone years ago. But the photo showed it was still active. So it's fairly old. So if you're relying on that information, it's dated.
Yeah.
And it's
best practices every 5 years.
Yeah, it gives an unreal aspect of what's actually happening there. So Councillor Newman.
Just to speak in favor of this, it's also something that our fire department can use, if I'm not mistaken, through any of our fires in the interface of the community. It'll also give you topographical depths and heights and all great things. I've seen this done in the past in different communities, and it's pretty incredible if you get the opportunity to review the maps after.
Yeah, we've done this many times. Last time was 2016 though, so it's due. 5 years is kind of your shelf life on getting a new ortho shot. I keep on hoping that satellite imagery is going to get better fast enough that we can just download a layer for free, but we're not quite there yet.
Mr. Elon Musk will take care of that for you. Councillor Petrosi.
Just adding to Councillor Newman, I think all emergency services actually will use this, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have another one. 2023 CP014, Arena Player Bench Extension. Again, I don't want to seem like an ogre here, but those benches have been good for 50 some odd years. Unless the players are getting wider, I do understand it, but I'm just not really sure that's, well, it's two numbers. It's page 102 of 237 or page 94 of 213. Take your pick.
And I think that one is one of the ones that's been moved.
Oh, was it moved?
Yeah, it's been moved to.
Oh, sorry.
There you go, moved to 2024.
Oh, thank you.
There
Thank you. Well, so much for that one. My big moment. Councillor.
I don't like this. I feel like I'm in an SNL episode.
Councillor Petrosi.
Number 2023 CP025, ball infield leveling for 20,000. Not sure if that gets done every year or what that entails. Yeah, I don't know.
Can you see the number again, Councillor?
2023 CP025.
Okay.
Page
116, yeah, page 116.
I can say that I don't know that we've had an outside contractor come in and level not well in 2015 to 2020 when I worked. So it's not something that's done on a regular basis. Sean knows if it's been since.
How many ball fields are we leveling? Just the ones at Central Park or?
Well, Councillor C.O. Smith?
Yeah, I can confirm this is just for Central Park. I know that this has come up from some of the ball tournaments. I did not know there were regulations around ball fields, but apparently we've got that lip on the transition from the infield to the ball field, to the outfield that has caused some problems, tripping, other things. And so I can't speak to this with any degree of professionalism. So I just know that there have been comments raised from some of the tournaments on that. This is what it would cost to address that particular issue. If you guys have heard that this is a problem, great. If you haven't heard that it's a problem, I don't know if this is, I just can't tell you how pervasive it is. I just know it exists.
I can see where it probably happens is the red clay that's in the infield settles or gets activated, so it would decrease and the turf would be higher.
Can you turn your mic on, Sheila?
Oh, sorry.
So,
Shut it off.
And you're done.
And I'm done.
Councillor Newman.
Just in regards to this, is there any way that we could have staff come back with some further information on this? Because I do, with the amount of ball tournaments we do host in a year, I would really hate to see that we decide not to go ahead with this and then all of a sudden find out that we can't have 16 tournaments. It's a money-making field for a lot of organizations in town, so if possibly staff could just come back with some
pictures,
further information, or department heads, whichever.
I think that works.
Yep.
We're probably just going to go snap some pics so you guys can see what this looks like. I think that the idea here is that we would have contractor, a bit of specialized service, come do that work. Maybe we also have an opportunity to reduce the cost by doing it in-house, but I know Public Works will lynch me if I say that too often because their seasonal plan is already overflowing. So,
Councillor Egan?
I would just like to add that having been a ball player myself for years, when you're catching a ball, a lot of times you're walking backwards and there's a lot of tripping that can happen. There's been lots of broken ankles, broken legs. I think it's a really important issue to fix and keep fixed.
Councillor Petrosi?
I spoke to a couple old-time ball players yesterday in Kamloops, and they said they were coming to Merritt for a tournament. So pensioners playing ball, they're really good players, but yeah, so it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah. Well, I have a friend who's a ball player, and for as much as it gets used, I'm more than happy to support it as it sits right now. I think it's a money-maker area for us, and we actually do have one of the people that he's in his 90s, if you can believe it. He's a back catcher. And so I'm willing to support it as it sits. I don't need to see a report. I'm fine with it. So anybody else have anything else to say? Anybody against it? Councillor Rogan.
I just want to speak in favor. I feel like that always helped our local economy when they come all these tournaments happening in that area, but I do need to see more information.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Okay. So we will leave it at more information? Yep. That's where we'll leave it? Okay, good deal. Thank you very much. Councilor Petrosi, you haven't gone yet. Oh, you have?
Oh, yeah, I'm done. I just had another item I wanted to speak on. Dugout roofing. I actually walked the dugouts.
What's the number?
Oh, sorry. Hang on. Just the one above that, 2023 CP 024, page 114.
I can never find this stuff.
Page 114.
just the one right before us.
So I did go for a walk out to the dugouts last week and had a look, and the roofs are definitely rotten. They definitely need to be replaced. Okay. So I'm approving that.
We're looking for disapproval.
Oh, sorry, I just thought I was part of the.
We'll all leave and leave this there.
Okay, well, while you brought it
up. Hold on a second. Councilor Petrosi, can you kill your mic for me, please?
Now that Councilor Petrosi brought it up, I would like to know what kind of materials they're going to redo this, because if they've made them out of wood X number of years ago, are we going to be replacing them with wood and then X number of years from now be faced with the same problem?
I've heard that gingerbread is making an effort to come back.
I have no idea, but we can find that out.
They are made of plywood, so just plywood sheets.
Yeah.
We'll do it, I promise.
Councilor Charney.
Sorry, that was bad.
I think the CAO needs a cookie.
The gingerbread was good.
Yeah, it's got it on the brain apparently.
Okay, I am on the page 3 of 6 of all expenses, item 042, Public Works, Fleet Residential Garbage Truck, 400,000 borrowing. Now, I understand the main concern is contamination. Contamination was not from residentials putting it in, it was the city crew putting garbage into recycling, and to me, that is not a good enough reason to spend 400,000, Sean's got his finger up, to spend 400,000 because City Works can't get their act together.
I need on them. So that we acknowledge that might be part of it. The reason I know it is not all of it is the day in which we get our audit done depends. So I'm going to back up to the very beginning. I think council is well aware that we have different days. We take loads from different areas of the city. If there are some days where if we get our audit done, our audit comes back excellent, like really excellent. There are other days when our audit comes back really not excellent. Now, it could be that on Fridays, our guys forget how to use the machine and dump things in the wrong areas, or it could be that on certain days of the week, we have portions of the community that are less vigilant on the recycling side. I know what Recycle BC thinks the answer is, and I won't get any more presumptive, but we are 100% sure that this is a mixed, we are 100% sure that there is still an issue with how recycling is done and the contamination that is being introduced. What we don't know is, are we potentially contributing to that? I also wanted to add that that was part of the rationale for why we would downsize and go to 2 trucks, but our existing truck does need to be replaced. So if you want to see a different model for how we bring this forward, if you would like to keep the same model with the larger truck with the dual fold, we could probably reprice something, but we do need to start looking at another solution either way.
So just so you're aware, Councillor Charney, when I sat on council, we approved the recycling, and I've been gone for almost 6 years. That truck was then, and it's kind of nickeling and diming us to that. It does have a shelf life, and it's coming to the end of its life. There's just no 2 ways about it. But hold on. Councillor Newman goes next.
I was going to speak in favor of going ahead with a garbage truck. It is one of the fleet's most used vehicles daily throughout our whole community, and if you can imagine not having a garbage truck that's up and operational for more than 2 weeks, or you're bringing it in from another community to have to borrow because you don't have a garbage truck for a month because it's broken and you have to wait for parts, I really firmly believe that this is just one of those vehicles that, as the mayor said, has a life expectancy, and when it's time to replace it or at least get a backup for it, you need to jump on it.
And I don't think the intent is that we would retire the existing truck yet. This is potentially phase 1 of moving to a 2-truck model where we would still keep the existing truck in service. But you guys have probably seen how many times over the course of the last 2 years we've had to put out notices, hey, sorry, we're not able to pick up recycling today. That's happening at an increased rate because of age and wear and tear on that truck. So I highly recommend that council does proceed with an option, but if you want to see other alternatives, that's fair game.
Councillor Charney.
So when you say borrowing, do we take that whole 400,000 off, or do we take a portion off? So we take the whole 400,000 off right away?
Generally, that's how we've done it, yes.
Councillor Richard.
I just wanted to add that it takes time for the truck to come in, so even if we borrow it now, we're not going to be paying it till 2024 probably, because it'll probably take a year to come in, like the vac truck, which we replaced in the last council term, so we're lucky there. But if you think this is bad, wait, Wendy, until the next one comes up, the vac truck. They're about $600,000, even worse. So,
I'm going to kill your mic.
There you go.
But wait, there's more.
Anybody wish to support Councillor Charney in her?
I'll withdraw.
We're good to go.
Good.
Anyone else? Councillor Newman.
All right, so sorry, Anne, I'm going to bring this up even though it was explained to us all at the last budget meeting. It's a combination of 2023CP-047 and it's the grinder, and there was another part to the sidewalk. Sorry, I can't find the line right now. But let's start with the $222,000 one for borrowing. I'm just curious. I understand when the Director of Public Works was here and he explained, it would always be nice to be able to get on these sidewalks when they're damaged and repair them right away. But to my knowledge, there's not a big onslaught of new sidewalk installation or anything this year, is my understanding. And that's with a question mark at the end.
So you're correct on new installation. I got to be a bit careful with how I say this. You're balancing making sure that sidewalks are safe. And when I say safe, you don't want people tripping and falling on your sidewalks, which is both an experience benefit, but also a potential liability for the city. And we did experience a number of trip and falls in relation to sidewalks last year.
In the winter or during?
Also not during the winter.
Okay.
So in fact, I think that Merritt just was talking about a situation here that happened a couple weeks ago in relation to a sidewalk. And so the standard, so you guys know, is if something's more than 1.5 inches, we need to do some work and maintenance on that sidewalk. And so this is a tool that would be, it's an upfront cost for sure, but it's going to add to our capacity for a lot of years to come to make sure that our sidewalk maintenance is a much higher quality program. Also, we have the opportunity to pair this with, I don't remember if this is in the training or not, but we're making some changes and improvements to how we do this sidewalk maintenance and inspection program. So really having this as a 1-2 punch so that you're not just flagging it, you're flagging it and the person is following up to actually do the work immediately and just have that as part of the seasonal plan. This does not have to run. We've run without it. But it will improve the quality of the sidewalk maintenance program and potentially reduce city liabilities.
So then my question being is, and obviously citizen safety is of the utmost importance, I understand that, but I'm curious if having the machine will actually create us not having that 1.5 inches right away, or is it still going to cause the person to trip and fall and then we're still going to go fix it?
It's a really good question. Council sets the limits. So 1.5 inches is fairly common in municipalities across BC, but it's not it can be other limits. And so if council decided you wanted to have another limit, great. You just need to know that whatever limit you set, which has to be reasonable, is the standard by which you are going to be held in a court or whatever the case is. So if you drop that to 1 inch because you now have a new Skookum machine that is going to do that maintenance, then if we are seen to have not caught something in our inspection that was 1 inch and didn't fix that or remedy that situation, then it leads to potential liability.
I think what Councilor Newman's getting at is if we buy this machine, we have it ready, somebody trips and falls, and we have the machine, but we missed it.
Yeah.
It has done us no good.
It's just there for the...
Does that increase our liability?
Your liability is not going to increase. Your liability is going to be based on the standard that you hold.
I guess the situation would be is are we going to have the City Works people walk our sidewalks and start monitoring where we need to grind? I mean, it's great to have a grinding machine, and we brought that company in one time. They walked the whole community and marked down red paint where everything had to be, and then they ground it down. So I kind of see Councilor Newman's point. If we have the machine, but we don't know where the problem is until somebody trips and falls, we've absolutely solved nothing.
Yes, this is all part of an overall broader sidewalk inspection program.
Okay.
So, and can I just clarify, we're just talking about the grinder at this point, right?
Well, the grinder and the maintenance machine.
The maintenance machine is something that we already have to do snow removal and sweeping on the sidewalks? So it's a replacement.
No, she's talking about the sidewalk maintenance machine.
Yeah, it's just the trackless
side. It's not for the sidewalks, it goes on the sidewalks to maintain the sidewalks.
I'm just talking the grinder.
Yeah, I was talking both.
I think you guys were talking double language.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to just clarify. The grinder is a new.
Yeah, that's the one that zips up and down Boat Street. It's got a few different attachments on it, a bucket, a brush, some other things.
So that's the 222,000 is the trackless sidewalk.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Which is, I just wanted to make sure, because you were talking definitely grinder, but I just wanted to make sure everybody was on the same
That's
page.
my apologies.
Well, no, because I did bring up both sidewalks at the very beginning of this conversation. So now, bringing it all the way back with all that information is, where are we at with the sidewalk inspection plan? Or are we just creating it?
No, we do sidewalk inspection every single year. So that is part of your existing policy. What is not well built into our policy is when we identify through that inspection, we mark things for somebody else to come do the work. We get a contractor to come grind that down. This would allow us to be able to grind that down. So it's reducing the delay and the potential cost and relying on contractors because now we have the ability to do it.
So the grinder attachment, and just for clarification, now that we've had both of these in the same conversation, the grinder attachment is only to lower the sidewalk to whichever standard is set out by policy, and then the sidewalk maintenance, it would be attached to that?
Other way around, I think. The sidewalk maintenance machine is a multi-purpose tool.
It's like a tool
I
cap.
just want to pull it. Yeah.
And the grinder goes on it.
I've got to be careful as to which the grinder goes on.
Well, it's like a Bobcat.
The grinder goes on something, but I don't know if it's this particular machine or a different machine. But yes, it is like a Bobcat, Toolcat, whatever you want to call it. But it's what takes care of city sidewalks.
The grinder goes on the high flow skid steer.
There we go.
Bobcat.
So it doesn't go on the other one.
So the grinder goes on the skid steer.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I'm still going to put out a motion that we possibly send this trackless sidewalk maintenance machine for $222,000 to the 2024 budget.
Noted. Councillor Charney.
Well, I was going to say that exactly, because what else does it do besides remove snow?
It will do. Snow is its biggest function.
But sidewalks, unless they're downtown, are the responsibility of the residents. So this would just be downtown sidewalks?
There's a lot of sidewalks that don't have abutting residential property. Think Boat Street.
It's been as far up as the skate park, up that whole length all the way down.
Okay, so city-owned
down
sidewalks,
by the
removing
AW,
snow, and that's its only purpose?
My apologies. Would you allow us to bring back some more information on this one before? I would really hate to give you a wrong answer and have you scratch something that I'm not doing justice to.
Councillor Egan.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Councillor Egan.
I think the other piece of equipment that has to do with these other two machines is the self-propelled floor saw, is it not?
Well, let's finish this one first before we move on to
Well,
that.
I'm just thinking that they're all part and parcel.
I think the self-propelled floor saw is a unit all on its own.
Okay, well, I thought it had to do with sidewalks.
Yeah, I've used one of those before, so. I
those-
could be wrong. Do we want to flag all of that for information, the trackless, the grinder, and the floor saw? Is that where we want to go?
The floor saw is for if you need to make a cutout.
Yes, I know.
So one is for grinding, one is for cutting out a slab so that you can relay new slab.
And the way I understood it, the way Rick explained it to us at another meeting, was that this would save us money by not having to bring in outside people to do this.
So we would prefer more information on this and move it for more information?
The maintenance machine, yes.
Well, I think if we're going to do it, we should do it for all three, because obviously we have a bit of confusion here. So I would do it for all three, the self-propelled, the grinder, and the self-propelled floor saw.
Okay.
If we get just a little bit more clarity on that, that would be great. Anybody else have a red letter item that are interested?
So I know what to ask Rick for. Is the clarity on what they do, or is the clarity on what costs we think they will save on the other side?
I hate to say it, but just the conversation, I think we need to know what apparatus it goes on and what it does and what it saves us. I don't know if you can't really factor into what it saves us. I just think we're confused on where it hooks to, what it hooks to, and what it looks like.
And then the condition of our current trackless sidewalk maintenance machine, like why does it have to be replaced?
Shelf life, but.
Okay. Okay, and I have one more thing that I would like to say, and that is, we've also got an amount of $75,000, which is a reduction of $25,000 for the sidewalk maintenance repair replacement program. So this should probably, this was number CPO 21. I think all of these should be reviewed together, and I would like to see a copy, if that's possible, of the maintenance repair replacement program for sidewalks.
You just want to understand collectively what we're proposing for the overall sidewalk program. Here's what we're doing. We're reducing our contractor line. We're proposing to introduce these new tools, do them as staff labor, and understand what that whole thing looks like.
And it's all being put into this budget, so I just need to know if it's already existing.
The program itself?
Yes.
Yes. You can see in there that's the one that exists right now. We're proposing a reduction of $25,000.
So that's actually probably reduces the budget by 25.
I don't think we represented this right. Well,
Yeah.
That's fair. You guys have raised a totally good point. You guys deserve to consider the program in its totality and understand what we're doing. That's a great point.
And we can talk to Rick even for tomorrow night. It might be.
Councillor Newman?
Throw some stuff.
That's true.
Oh, and I was just going to thank Councillor Egan, because at the very beginning of the last conversation, that's exactly what I was trying to get at, was where are we at with our sidewalk replacement plan in order to get these parts. So thank you for bringing that back up for review.
Councillor Charney?
Item 028, underwater, Cleesby Extension, 121,000, and then for, that's for water sewer, and then another for water sewer, 40,300. So if we have taken out the Cleesby Extension,
They would come out.
they would come out also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, is that under the
Water sewer capital requests, 028, both 028.
Oh, thank you.
I'm just giving a shout out to Bob, who's just going strong back there.
He's had cookies and a donut, he's fallen asleep. You should run for council, Bob, at least you get paid to sit there. Councillor Charney, you got anything more? Or?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, excellent.
Okay. Item just says 66, sewer, treatment and sludge disposal chemicals, 87,000. I know we have to have these, but another thing that I learned at the Housing Summit is a lot of the communities are now turning to bulk. Maybe we do it too, but they're buying a lot of bulk ahead of time at a certain price because they know in 6 months that price is going up. So this seems like a lot of money on treatment and sludge, but I guess that is a necessary cost. I was just looking at it.
I'm not mucking with sewer.
Yeah, right. Like, I don't want it to stink.
It is one of the major areas where we've seen drastic increases. A lot of the things that you've seen on here, 5-10%. This hasn't been 5-10%. It's been like 100% increases in cost for some of these chemicals. So yeah, I can't speak exactly to what our purchasing practices are as to whether there's more opportunity to do bulk storage or what that looks like, what the shelf life of the chemicals are. That's a great question to talk with Rick about tomorrow, but I have a high degree of confidence that this is one of those items where if you say you want to scratch or reduce the number on, it's not going to change what we do. We're going to go buy the chemicals and do what needs to be done in order to fully process our effluent.
Okay.
In the nicest possible way.
Are you done, Councillor Charney? I see you got your light on
Yes.
there. So I have one, and I know it's going to be kind of piddly, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. 2023 CP012, the whiteboard replacement for the Merritt Civic Center.
That's another one that's been moved forward.
Oh, did?
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not reading anything.
It's on the draft sheets.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Never mind. Councillor Charney?
I would just like to bring something up against those whiteboards. I was at the Civic Center, and a good clean would really help those, because look on my finger, clean them up pretty good. But also skins, we could look at, that's what I did, I used my finger, spit and finger. We could get skins to put on there and reduce the cost of whiteboards. Skins, you can get skins you put on the whiteboards.
Fresh.
Yep.
Oh, like tear-offs?
Yep.
Like, oh, okay.
And way cheaper than replacing the whole whiteboard. But I think they should, first of all, for this year, get that spray cleaner and clean them up. And
C.O. Smith, I am surprised, you being a whiteboard fanatic, do not.
yes, you don't know all that.
Time out, guys. I have a high degree of confidence that we have cleaned our whiteboards.
No, they weren't cleaned. Ask Dan.
I'm not saying that they weren't clean in this particular moment, but I'm that's not. Anyways, thank you. I don't not mean to be ungracious about the suggestion. Good point. Appreciate it. And then it's off. It's not on the budget, so.
She loves whiteboard.
Clean your dang whiteboards, Sean. Thank you.
So I have another one, and sorry, Councillor Hogan, you have one.
So just going to adjusted capital request, 2023 CP 040, page 146. I just want to get from staff a little bit more of information about the office renovation that is planned. Thank you.
I can never find anything.
So I can speak to that a little bit, and Sean, you can maybe correct me if I'm wrong. Originally, the office was the Public Works office. They did do an expansion where there was a lunchroom. They did have a boardroom, but then over the years, they divided up the boardroom into smaller offices. And it's not working as well as they would like. So they would like to open it up again and have people so that, because people aren't in their offices that often, they don't need really a dedicated office. They just need workstations in a general area. And then they need more space where they can do some training and some staff development or, have meetings.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I have not done overviewed the particular plan. What I can say is that there was a plan 2 years ago, Councillor Richard, for a $650,000 office reno. And we looked at that, we're like, cool. Let's find a way to accomplish your objective. What changes do you need to make? How can we reduce that overall cost? There was some discussion about it, got picked up again this year, and there was what they thought was a solution that would allow for meeting the overall space needs at a much lower price point of $30,000, but I don't have the specifics as to what is actually being done to accomplish that. Mm-hmm. So if this is a more info item, that's totally fine.
Yeah. Just in general, I'm talking with Rick, it was like, because they actually have offices with walls and doors, and I think he felt that if they could open that up a bit, they could have some workstations. They could sit out and do their work when they're in the office, and then it provides them with more space to do other group activities in.
Okay. So do we want more information on this? Do we want to oppose this? Do we want to let it go through? Where are we going with this? Seems like we would like more info.
Okay.
Thank you. I have one. Maybe it's already been pulled out for all I know. I'm betting 1,000. 2023 OP40. The Public Works is looks like the cleanup up at 286, the old info center, weekly. I just need some information.
Oh, the operating, on the operating side. I was looking at the capital one. I was thinking, that's the one we were just talking about.
Yeah, the operating. 2023 OP40.
Yeah, we've removed that one.
Okay, of course.
You're a hot streak. I think. How much can you keep this alive?
There's only all night long. I'm here till Thursday.
Hey, we were reading your mind.
Tip your waiter. You guys came in. I left this on my desk, and you saw all my red tips. That's exactly what it was.
Either that, or there's a realistic chance you buzz the tower on this and say, "Hey, this is not going to go."
Anyone else have any things that are?
So if you haven't listed something, does that mean it's a provisional yes? Is that what we take from this?
That's apparently where we were going.
And the ones that they definitely listed would be a higher priority in my mind as I'm working through them, right? The ones that we'll take a look at it. If we have to eliminate anything, we'd bring it back.
And I'm assuming we'll get an updated list on what we've talked about tonight, where we are, where we're going.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Okay, so we'll get you the updated numbers with what you've already approved. You've got a more info list that will hit. You guys are well aware of the open house, which will likely be quite casual tomorrow. We'll have some snacks so that people don't die. Bob said he's cooking up for us as well. So, and we still need to schedule another meeting, do we not?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Councillor Newman has a question.
First week of May.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't quite done out of the things to bring up.
Oh,
So
okay.
I had a question in regards to where we sat on the rotary band shell. Well, no, the repairs that were brought up, is that what they're calling it, the gate to bring it down so that, yes. So did that go forward or did we?
It got moved to 2024.
Yeah, got moved to 20. That one I knew.
Okay. Well, and that's what my understanding was, but I've just really been humming and hawing about it, and I really think it being one of our most used parks, that it's something we should have maybe talked about a little further. And then the next lovely one that we haven't touched with a 10-foot pole, even though we just temporarily paved Vote Street, was the very large Vote Street one that's on here.
It's partially.
So I think that what we are going to do, and we have just finalized a potential option for you. What we'll likely do is carry that at a $5 million figure. Recommend to council that the 2.9 roughly in grant funds go towards that. There's about another 900,000 in water and sewer that we can pull from there. So it's going to end up coming to in the neighborhood of, somewhere between around $1.2 million is going to come from reserves in order to service that project. We also have is that announced? There's another project related to active transportation that we may or may not be running at the same time to connect the existing path all the way down Vote Street for a multi-purpose, a multi-use path. So, and which is grant funded as well. So I would anticipate that we're just kind of working on what the breakdown looks like, but you'll actually get to see what the project looks like. There's a high degree of likelihood following the conversation that we had that you do the road without roundabouts, and it's probably going to carry us to the neighborhood in and around the hospital is where we're going to be able to get to with that degree of funding. So.
I did provide them with Rick's update.
And that's why I was bringing it forward.
So they've got the breakdown on the 5 million.
Yes.
Great. You guys have had that. Yeah. It makes me feel way better about it.
I only brought it up for that reason that we just got it, and we just did the temporary paving, and I just was looking to see if there was any further discussion on it, so.
Councillor.
So what you're saying, Sean, is between grants and pulling some out of reserves, Vote Street will be done this year?
We need your direction, and Vote Street as a whole will not be done, but the part that everybody complains about the most will be done.
So that includes infrastructure and paving?
Up to that point, yes.
So up to the hospital then?
Ish.
Ish.
Don't quote me on the exact location. There's a tie-in point there. I think it's in the pictures that you saw. So it's in that area though.
Okay.
You will note that there's still going to be a stretch of road as well as 2 roundabouts that are not completed as part of that you're going to need to come up with roughly another $5 million to complete. But that's going to be likely the next up on the grant radar.
Councillor Newman.
Just in regards to that, but we also have the option to not go ahead. With the roundabouts if that was an option without having to spend another $5 million, correct?
Well, that'll come before you.
You totally have that option.
Yeah, it comes before you. Anyone else have any other comments? I knew it. Councillor Newman.
Sorry, and this is just a question of staff on the budget side so when you come back with the items that have been removed and what we have left, will you be giving us options on which way the budget will go? Like if we went with this, we'll be looking at a 4%. If we went with this, we're looking at an 8%, or which variations there are. as a whole as we go through this, because we're getting closer and closer to this May 15th. So I mean, our options for meeting are going to be slim and few and far between, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'll let Sean continue.
Yeah, I would recommend that what we do, because I think you guys need to see a model, and then if that model doesn't work for you, then provide some direction. I think that what we should probably do is take the 5% residential increase figure, bake it in with the model that we have here, have you bring those numbers back, see what they actually look like on the ground, and you can provide a direction from there. Because I'm worried that if we don't put it into a model where you can actually see what this looks like, that it's going to be really hard to get to decision spot from where we are. Is that a reasonable approach?
Yep. No. I mean, this isn't the final night. We're going to meet again.
So we will need to schedule probably the week you're back from Selga. We'll work with Greg and Linda on that. First week in May.
So I see that you're looking at a 5% and a 3%. We didn't want to look at a 4% in the middle.
Well, that 3 to 5 is whatever falls in between, right? So it could be 4, could be 5, could be 6. I mean, that's a number that we threw out that we would hope to achieve. That's your base number. I mean, you may hit it, you may not.
Okay.
Councillor Newman?
And then Councillor Charney, you caught me off guard with that question. Well, and that's the other thing is, would we also get the option to review the budget based on approved projects versus we're aiming to have 5%? Like, as much as I seeing this, we came up with a number that we hope to achieve, but I mean, I would like to also see what it looks like as a whole if we approve.
That's what we're saying. We want to take the ones you've said yes to here, and we'll probably have the more infos on the side, but we also want you to know what this looks like, because we want you to make that taxation decision with a degree of confidence. And so bringing back the tax number is, Sheila's done kind of the hard work on what that revenue figure is. Now we need to take that, implement all of these projects to see, oh shoot, we are not charging enough tax to actually do the things that we've just said yes to, or oh shoot, we are, or maybe oh good, we have $200,000 of surplus, or whatever this looks like, because as Sheila indicated, there are still some items here that need to be baked into that model, like the annual union increases and other things that you have not.
Which we've got kind of in the draft.
Correct. But so you need to see the whole model in order to make a decision, and I think that in fairness to you, we need to give you, this is what it would look like with that number, and you're going to have to go up or down from there.
And then including water and sewer rate increases, or if there happens to be that in that needed area. And the one last thing I just wanted to mention, I did not see on any of this, and that's not to say it's not coming forward, but any contributions to future reserves for, like, I know we took out the 2024 needs, but that doesn't say that we don't still have needs to put money aside for future things that we are aware of.
If I can be quite blunt, I think if we're looking at a 5% or less tax increase, there probably isn't going to be a lot of money to put into reserves.
Hold on a sec. You went off, so.
That's okay. I wanted to
ask a little bit more about. Well, I'll just let Claire finish because she's got the thought.
So on that, so the way I look at tax increases or not increases, whichever way this ends up going, my goal is, I would love to see 5 or less. I mean, that's a great goal to go with, but I am not stuck on having that as my go-to figure. So I don't want to not contribute to something that can save us in 5 years because I'm looking at a 0.5% increase if I wanted to put money away. So for me, utmost, I think, need is to look at where our future is in 5 years, and we're cutting projects now, and we may have to do that again next year and more projects in order to get to a place where we need to be. But I really, truly believe we need to be putting something away for next year and the following year, whatever that number looks like. But I'm a firm believer in reserves and having that money there for when we need it versus always borrowing and going ahead with things. Just my
5%'s not your ride or die. It's just a number that we came up with. But reserves are tough. I mean, they're nice to have, but they're tough to fund. It's that simple. Councillor Regan.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a little bit more about what we can really expect. And we don't have a final budget. I don't even think we could even begin to talk about the kinds of things that we want to do because nothing's final. So what exactly are we going to be doing tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night?
Yeah.
Tomorrow night is going to be
about budget.
It is budget, but it's budget where residents are going to have an opportunity to talk through anything that they've heard here. Hey, this is really important to me that this project goes. We definitely don't want to see that project go. It's the sidewalks in Colletville. What the heck are you doing about the sidewalks in Colletville? Like, it's that type of discussion. It will also be an opportunity for you to dive into some degree of detail because oftentimes there isn't a huge number of public there, so you end up talking with staff about projects, and it is an opportunity for that as well. So it is more of an information gathering one, whereas your next decision-making one will be that probably first week of May, where we know that you guys need a model. Like Sheila and we're not blind to the fact that this is not the best practice for how you approach budgeting. I am really, really proud of the work that she's done and the work that the team has done because we were in a spot where I was actually having a few nightmares as to whether we were going to cross the finish line. So I am now convinced we're going to cross the finish line, even if we're panting and a little bit gassed at getting across. So thank you so much for what you have done, Sheila, and I really want to commend you for this, and also the directors for working with you to get the information as quickly as we can. But I really hope that you do hear that this is not what we hope the budget is going to look like for you on a go-forward basis. It does need to be something where there's a package with a proposed rate much earlier on, probably 3 months earlier on, so that the whole point of budget is you working through things in the context of up and down with what the rate is. Here's the proposed projects, here's the proposed rate. If we cut projects, we're cutting rate. If we add projects in, we're adding rate. And that really is where you ought to live. And just because of where we are and needing to, again, even get year-end financials done, I am so grateful for the patience that you've had with it, because I understand how frustrating and difficult this must be for you trying to lead an organization in your first year with 3/4 of a picture, and you have to guess the rest. So thank you guys for your patience with it, and we'll do our best to put as much modeling together as we can for the next one.
What you'll find tomorrow night, Councillor Egan, is people are just going to ask certain questions. There's going to be, I do believe, some displays, and yeah, you're going to get, when are you doing Vote Street, and when are you doing that? What you're going to get. So you'll be able to defend your position.
Should we bring some, like, this type of paper in the binder, so?
You know it off by heart. No. You know, you should know. Apparently I didn't know it because I kept missing everything I wanted to bring up. But are we done? With that, we'll adjourn.